Tonight, Gyakye Quayson swings into campaign mode, determined to win Assin North seat for the second time in less than 3 years, despite facing criminal prosecution for perjury that could land him in jail for up to 10 years. So is the NDC risking too much in backing him for the by-election on June 22nd?
But the NDC is prepared. The NDC has a good will in Assin North, and the NDC is ready to go into that by-election with a positive mind that we would win.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Vodafone. Gyakye Quayson, whose name was expunged from Parliament as MP for Assin North on the orders of the Supreme Court, has tonight swung into campaign mode, determined to win the seat for the second time in less than 3 years. The NDC campaign machine has already been deployed in the constituency to back him. The decision to proceed to run that particular by-election comes despite Mr. Quayson facing criminal prosecution for perjury that could land him in jail for up to 10 years. So is the NDC risking too much in backing him for that by-election? We'll hear from the party pretty shortly. Today, though, Mr. Quayson has issued a detailed statement aligning his ambitions to contest that particular by-election. Plus, we also learn a bit more about the status of that criminal case against him, even as the Electoral Commission prepares to hold a meeting with the political parties on this impending by-election. More on all that pretty shortly. But let's go straight to the details of the statement that Gyakye Quayson issued earlier today. And in the studio with me is my colleague, Kojo Brace. Kojo, he is still insisting in declaring his ambitions and intention to run in this by-election, that he is indeed innocent.
Yep.
Right? And that he, after the time that he filed to contest, he had renounced his Canadian citizenship.
Yeah, so to quote him, he says, "I renounced my Canadian citizenship in December 2019 and returned to Ghana to serve you, my people of Assin North. When I declared my nomination forms, in October 2020, that I owed no allegiance to any country other than Ghana, that was indeed the truth. To date, no one has provided any evidence that I owed allegiance to Canada at the time I filed my nominations and when I was elected and sworn in as your member of parliament." He says, when a group of people sent a petition to the EC to allege that I owed allegiance to Canada, they were invited to provide evidence to support the allegations, but they failed to provide any evidence of my owing allegiance to Canada beyond my having had Canadian nationality. Accordingly, the EC cleared me fit and qualified to contest, and on 7th December 2020, you rose up and got me duly elected as your member of parliament with a resounding victory.
Okay, so he's still insisting he is still innocent.
Exactly.
After the time that he filed, and for which reason the Electoral Commission, he says, still cleared him to go ahead. And then he takes on the judgment of the Supreme Court, citing several cases that he believes makes his case even strong now.
Now, he starts from the statement by the General Secretary. He says that, the recent statement by the General Secretary of the NDC in response to the ruling expresses my view. He said, quote, "In the light of many decisions that we are aware of, including decisions in cases involving Honorable J.H. Mensah, Honorable Baba Jamal, and Honorable Peter Amewu, that state the Supreme Court does not have the jurisdiction to invalidate a parliamentary election and that the High Court is where such a matter should be taken. It seems strange to us that the Supreme Court gave this decision." To buttress this point, he references...
And that's why he goes to reference some of those particular cases. And one of them delivered by Justice Tokonum,
yes.
the Chief Justice, who's just been appointed and vetted.
Exactly. He says that... Now, let me quote what he wrote here. He says, "Her Ladyship said, quote, as referred to by Appel JSC on page 7 of the decision under review, this court has settled through cases such as Yeboah versus J.H. Mensah 1998-1999, 492, and in RE parliamentary election for Wolensi constituency, Zakaria versus Yimakan, that the effect of section 16 of PNDC law 284 of the Constitution and Article 99 is that any cause of action that is in substance and reality one that questions the validity of a parliamentary election and its outcomes must necessarily be prosecuted through a parliamentary election petition in the High Court. And neither the Supreme Court in its several jurisdictions nor the High Court in its various jurisdictions has jurisdictions to grant reliefs relating to a parliamentary election without a hearing conducted through petition to question the election in the High Court, end of quote.
And it cites a relevant pay to back this. So that is his position that the Supreme Court had held before, that it's not a forum to decide this.
Exactly.
So he's still fighting
the Supreme Court for taking that decision.
But just to put it in context, he hasn't stated in this document that although he's still raising all these fundamental legal issues, he will seek a review of the matter. But what he confirms is that he will definitely be running in this by-election on the ticket of the NDC.
Exactly. Now he says that, having said all of what I've said, I am willing and ready to contest in this. He says, quote, the most important thing to me right now is to contest and win the by-election, which is the result of what the Supreme Court announced on 17th May 2023. I am determined to continue serving the good people of Assin North with all my heart, soul, body, and all resources I muster for the benefit of my constituents. I have been deeply touched by the amazing support and encouragement from you in the constituency of the Supreme Court decision on 17th May 2023. And Evans, you remember there was this vigil they held for him. He says, I was particularly moved by your show of love and support through the vigil organized by the youth at Assin Breku on Sunday, 28th May 2023. The massive attendance showed the depth of the support and encouragement I am receiving. I was really touched. Even before the Supreme Court decision, you, my constituent, have been sending me your messages of support and encouragement, and I am deeply grateful. So that is to show that, he appreciates the support they've given him, and he's ready to contest in the by-election. Evans.
Okay, stay with me. I want to get an update. The issue, though, around this tonight, which has generated a lot of interest and controversy among lawyers, is, well, can he legally contest? One, he's coming on the back of the Supreme Court case, and then he's also facing a criminal prosecution that could land him in jail if he loses that. Of course, many people maintain that he is still innocent until proving otherwise, but is this too much of a risk? But let's get a quick update on that criminal case. My court correspondent joins us right now on the line. Joseph, you've been following this case throughout. What's the status of that particular case against Gyakye Quayson?
So the case is at its very initial stages still, and this is because of multiple applications that have been filed at various points in time by lawyers for Mr. Quayson, led by Chachuchi Kata. In fact, the last time we were in court was just last week, specifically on May 25th, where the court was informed of the fact that the disclosures, i.e., the evidence that the prosecutors intend to rely on in the case against Mr. Quayson, there are some of the documents that Mr. Quayson's legal team believe they don't have the full complement of. And so they compared it with what the AG had, and they realized that it may have been an oversight per what the Deputy Attorney General Alfred Tiayeba told the court. And so the court adjourned to June 16, 2023, with the understanding that both sides will work on resolving that particular matter to enable the trial commence. And in terms of this particular case, it was filed against him on 31st January 2022, just around the same time when the civil matter that was decided by the Supreme Court was filed. That was filed on 24th January 2022. And just briefly on the charges against him, the first is deceit of a public officer. The second charge is forgery of passports or travel certificates. The third charge, knowingly making a false statutory declaration. The fourth charge is perjury, and the final one being false declaration for office.
And from everything else that you know covering this, these are very serious accusations against him in this document that the AG is pursuing. Yes,
in fact, the perjury is a second-degree felony, and so that, in terms of what it attracts, about 10 years imprisonment. In terms of the other offenses, deceit of public officer, that is a misdemeanor, so you can't be sentenced beyond 3 years. Then the others are basically these misdemeanors as well, and not going beyond the maximum sentence of 3 years. But the facts quite interesting in terms of what the AG put before the court. They make the case that in July 2019, he signed an application form for a Republic of Ghana passport in which he indicated that he's a Ghanaian and does not have dual citizenship. They make the point that at the time, he held a Canadian citizenship issued on 30th October 2016, but failed to declare same on the application form. They go on to state that he obtained a Ghanaian passport as a result of this information that he provided. Again, in the 2020 elections, was conducted on 7 December 2020. In October, he picked up nomination forms to contest and indicated that he was a Ghanaian, even though they say that at the point in time he was a Canadian citizen, i.e. a dual citizen. He was therefore disqualified per the AG's view from contesting this particular election. And so they hold a view that it meant that the declaration he made on those forms, which was accepted by the Electoral Commission, were not true.
Thank you very much, Joseph Ford. I want to bring in the NDC's Director of Legal Affairs, Abraham Amaliba. And by the way, just before he comes in, the NDC have already tonight been circulating his campaign posters already. You see, vote James Gyakye Quayson as MP for Assin North constituency, vote justice and development. And so now they are framing the question around justice,
development.
Exactly.
Yeah, because he says he's prosecuting the Assin North development agenda.
Exactly. And also playing into the sentiment that some may have there that this case against him was an act of injustice. And so it's part of his campaign message, and it's now firmly imprinted on his campaign poster. And his slogan is vote for justice and development.
A vote for him is maintaining justice.
Absolutely. So that's how the NDC is framing James Gyakye Quayson's candidature in this by-election. I want to bring in Abraham Maliba, who is Director of Legal now. Mr. Maliba, you are the Director of Legal for the party, and you know this criminal case is pending against him. I believe the party must have consulted you on whether or not it's prudent to still put him up. And your advice, I guess, from what the party's position has been publicly, must have been that, yes, do so. But isn't that too much of a risk?
Let me start by saying good evening to your listeners. And to start by saying that until and unless he is convicted and sentenced, nothing bars him from contesting. And so the advice given to the party is that as at November 2020, when he received his certificate of renunciation, he is qualified to contest any election, including presidential elections. So once again, until and unless he is convicted and sentenced, nothing bars him from contesting.
You're right, though. I mean, he's innocent and proven otherwise, but his name has just been expunged from Parliament, because a case, again, traveled for more than a year, was just recently settled. The argument is you run the same risk. In that case, this case may travel. It's 50-50. Who knows? You run a real risk. If he loses that seat again, that is, if he wins the by-election, and then you are back to square one.
So is there the possibility of him being acquitted and discharged? If the answer is yes, that would be a calculated risk to take.
So this for you is a risk, but it's calculated.
In fact, when you are sleeping in your room, there's a risk. Even when he becomes a member of Parliament, there's a risk. So what we are saying is that for now, the law allows him to contest. And if you are talking about whether or not he will be, the law courts would sentence him, I'm also telling you that the law courts can also acquit and discharge him. Don't forget that this is not like the one that's in the Supreme Court, or if you want a civil matter. They have to prove his guilt beyond reasonable doubt. And they have to show, that the prosecution has to show that he had a criminal intention to do what they are saying he did. So the standard there is high, and it's for the prosecution to clear it. So it's not going to be as easy as that.
You have been involved in that case somewhat. What do you know is the status of this case? This criminal case against him?
This case started way back last year. I'm aware it is at the embryonic stage. It's the last time I was informed of the prosecution witness not being available or so, and it was adjourned. But it's still in the embryonic stage, the very early days yet.
And so this, I've seen on the posters that the party has been circulating tonight. The messaging around James Gyakye Quayson as a candidate has been the anchor of that message is justice and development. I'm picking up on that phrase justice there. Is this going to be the central campaign message for him on the back of the Supreme Court decision?
That is so, because the candidate feels that he was given a raw deal. He, though, has the Supreme Court ruling before him, he disagrees with the Supreme Court, and so he thinks that re-electing him would bring about justice to the people of Assin North, who queued in 2020 to elect him. To re-elect him would right the wrongs he claims were perpetrated by the Supreme Court on him.
So you're going to use that in this by-election. This is going to be your trump card, you believe?
We will use, including the fact that this is a government that is limping. This is a government whose economic, what should I say, performance is terribly bad. And so we'll use every tool available, including what you have just read out, to ensure that he wins the seat.
On using the subject of justice, which is now firmly on this poster, you look at that and that could also backfire, because there may be some also in the constituency who genuinely also believe that the Supreme Court was actually right, and that he actually at the time of filing owed allegiance to another country. That could also prove disastrous for you, depending on how many people believe that narrative.
Before the decision was taken to use that as a campaign message, there was a sample that was used to gauge the feelings of the people. And if you saw the vigil that took place when he wasn't even there in Assin North, he wasn't there. I'm surprised to hear that he was even in Accra. I thought he was part of it. You would come to one irresistible conclusion that the people of Assin North are of the view that an injustice has been meted to them.
But that can be deceptive. How many people did you poll?
I have just told you the vigil, which is an indication of the feelings of the good people of Assin North. And so if you take what happened and consider the fact that the MPP is even now struggling to get a candidate, you put all this together, the combined effect is that the good people of Assin North are of the view that he was wrongly, targeted.
And I want to circle back to the Supreme Court case. Can you confirm for me, now, since you're Director of Legal, that the party, Gyakye Quayson, you've now abandoned all thoughts of filing for a review?
Whether he has abandoned a review?
Yes.
Is that your question?
Yes. Well, I mean, I'm just because now he's moving on. Now the campaign is on. His campaign, he says that's his focus. Can you confirm if that means the party now has abandoned all thoughts of filing for review?
The party is poised for the by-elections, and the party is focused on the work on the ground. The lawyers would take a decision and advise the party only if the decision, the reasons are out on the 7th of June.
And I guess that is confirmation that you still have not received a written judgment.
That is so.
Abraham Aliba, thank you very much. And he's a Director of Legal for the NDC joining us there. And shortly we'll get to the NPP because we know that they've opened nominations for the Assin North by-election. We'll have an update on that for you. Brace is still with me in the studio, and he also taps into this view that Amaliba is just expressing there. He believes he has the support.
Yeah.
And that many people he believes he has enough people believing him that he's still innocent. It is his word against the Supreme Court, but he's believing the majority of the people in Assin North will take his side instead of the Supreme Court side.
Yeah, so he references the vigil that went on. He says that I was moved by your show of love and support through the vigil organized by the youth at Assin Breako on Sunday, 28th May 2023. The massive attendance showed the depth of support and encouragement I am receiving, and I was really touched. So he feels that, that is what is making him, he feels he has the support of the people. And so when he contends, when he puts himself up again, he will win this election. So he's calling on the people to come out in their numbers to vote for him on the day of the election. So he puts it this way, that the people of the Sal traditional areas who are excluded from representation in Parliament, you, the people of Assin North, to have been in that unacceptable situation for over a year. The by-election, which must be held within 30 days of the decision of the Supreme Court, according to the Constitution, will bring an end to this situation. The will of the people of Assin North must triumph. Democracy must be restored. I urge you all to come out in your numbers to vote for me so I return to Parliament and continue the work I began to do on your behalf towards advancing the Assin North development agenda.
And we're sending a team to Assin North. It's going to be a pretty interesting contest there. You want to stay with us here on election quarters for that. Now, so the NDC, they have their candidate. Well, he's an aspirant now until he files. The EC had already have announced the processes going into the opening of nominations and filing. But what about the MPP? The open nominations some 24 hours ago. That closed now. And my colleague Samuel Mbura has been following that for us. Samuel, what's the updates on the nominations opened by the MPP, encouraging people to come forward and put themselves up to be voted for in a primary as we move towards the by-election?
Well, Evans, the nominations have officially closed. In my earlier interaction with the Director of Elections, Evans Nemako, he indicated that the number hasn't changed. 2 persons have picked the forms and filed today as well. The party is expected to vet these candidates or these aspirants tomorrow, Friday, and the main election will be on Wednesday. He asked that the party needs to fast-track the process because the EC has limited time, a reason they are doing this within a short period of time. We can listen to him.
2 people have paid up their nomination forms. We had Frederick Amwache and Charles Opoko. Nomination comes to an end. The party's committee, chaired by the National First Vice Chairperson, Mr. Dankwa Smith, was set with the committee to conduct the vetting. EC itself is tied with time because it must operate within 30 days, same as the party. So you realize from the correspondence issued by the General Secretary, it directed that as much as possible, the constituents is ready, the conduct of the exercise will be very swift. So on Wednesday, 7th of June, the party will conduct the primaries to select the candidate we will sponsor for the by-election. The EC has already opened the nomination. They've put out the website from which parties who are interested in contesting could download the nomination forms. We need to select our candidate, and this is going to be done by the party in Assin North constituency. Here, I mean the polling station executives, electoral coordinators, constituency executives, council of elders and patrons within the constituency. The party is not imposing candidates on them, and we know that going to the elections, we are going to win the seat.
Okay, so that's the update from the MPP. Someone will wrestle with me, but I want to bring in lawyer Bobby Bansing into this conversation around James Gyakye Quayson's declaration that he is running, considering that he has a criminal case still pending against him. Mr. Bansing, thanks for your time here on Top Story.
Thank you for having me, Ivan.
Okay, yeah, I mean, you're a lawyer, so walk me through this rope. The NDC's Director of Legal says, yes, it is a risk, but it is a calculated risk. You share that view?
Well, I believe that if the aim of a political party is essentially to win elections, a party may consider the impact of their decision on their ability to win the election more than any other thing. And so, yes, even though there's a criminal trial hanging on the head of their parliamentary candidate, it doesn't disqualify that person from running for the member of parliament. The outcome of the criminal trial if it's adversary, if the outcome is adversary, then it may affect the right of that candidate to continue to hold himself up for elections. If it is not, it means that then that parliamentary candidate will not lose anything if he has put himself up for elections. So if he says that it's a calculated risk, I'm sure that they consider the ability to win the election with that person as their candidate as the most important factor in deciding whether to put him up or not.
Just to be clear, he just lost a significant case at the Supreme Court. His name has been expunged. He has a criminal case pending against him. Has it got anything barring him legally from contesting as we speak this evening?
I wouldn't say so, because if you look at the 1992 Constitution, the things that disqualify someone from running as a member of Parliament, there's an aspect of a conviction for offences that relates to moral turpitude. As it stands now, as of today, the reason why the Supreme Court held that he was not qualified to run for election for at the time he did, that reason is no longer valid, because I believe he has completed the process of having only one nationality as of today. So that is not there. In terms of whether there's any criminal conviction, as of today, there's not a criminal conviction, because he's still going through the trial. And everybody is presumed innocent until proven otherwise by a court of competent jurisdiction. And so as of today, I do not see any legal barrier in his attempt to rerun for the election. However, if if he's nominated today and he's elected, in the course of his serving his term as a member of Parliament, if there is anything that occurs thereafter that makes him ineligible to run per the provisions of the Constitution, I believe that it will affect his ability to represent his people as a member of Parliament.
Thank you very much, Bobby Bansing. Grateful for your thoughts on this. What do you make of this? The NPP is now of closed nominations. They have two individuals who have picked forms and they will be vetted. The NDC, though, they've already settled on James Gyakye Quayson, and you just heard the risks that the party has weighed, and they say, well, it is a calculated one, and they are determined to go ahead. Share your thoughts, 055 11 997 Newsnight in a minute.